All right, hello, welcome back to the In the Woods podcast. Pastor Pete here with a special guest, my wife, Julie Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, anytime.
Here, get a little closer to that mic. Today, I guess a couple of reasons, but really one main reason about having you on the podcast was just I talked about you a lot in my message, so I was like, yeah, maybe I should give you a chance to defend yourself. But also, we've talked as well about just finding opportunities for, I get up on stage pretty regularly and get a chance to talk about life and stuff, but, people don't get as much chance to know you. So I thought it could be a good chance for that to use the podcast. So yesterday was our Christmas offering. That was exciting too.
It's very exciting.
And just started. We're in the middle of a series on Christmas songs. So we talked about joy, a lot going on, but we can get into that. Let's start just with who is Julie Goodman? Who is Goodman? in a nutshell. So maybe just even for people that have never even met you or talked to you, go back a ways, like all the way, upbringing, like talk about your family a little bit and let us know kind of who you are.
Sure. So I was born in downtown Chicago.
At a young age.
At a young age, at the very, very beginning of life. And born in downtown Chicago. I have two younger sisters. Jamie is living in Bloomington, Illinois. Her husband is also a pastor, and she's the one who we moved out to California with. And my other sister, Christy, lives in downtown Chicago in Oak Park, and my parents are in Bloomington. But we lived in Chicago for many years. Then as soon as we got married, literally like the day after our honeymoon, we up and drove to Kansas, lived there for 5 years. And we're in California for 12 years. But I have deep roots, spiritually speaking. My grandparents were missionaries in Africa.
Your mother's African American.
My mother's African American.
Literally.
Okay.
Not physically.
Right. But yeah, they were literally in the huts, lived in the huts, did ministry in Zimbabwe, Africa for 30 years, and then came back here. My dad got saved very randomly in South Dakota. He was a pig farmer in South Dakota and hitchhiked his way to Chicago and went to Moody Bible Institute. And so, so deep roots, spiritually speaking, and I feel very blessed and fortunate in that regard, just because I know now as an adult, I see how that has influenced who I've become and the way we lead our family and just the things that God has just very deeply rooted in my heart. And so I feel very, very blessed in that regard because I know that's not the story for everybody. And the older I get, the more deep into ministry that I go, I recognize that that's not normal. And so I don't take it for granted. My parents are still together. Obviously, they've been married for 45 years. But just our family is very close and very tight-knit. And, we love doing life together. So
you went to Christian college.
Did.
And
yep.
You were going to be... you were going to study paleontology and dinosaur bones?
I knew something was coming out there. I knew it. I could read it. So, I was going to study paleontology. No. So, I went to Bethel College in South Bend, and my sophomore year of college there, I originally started as nursing until I saw all the science classes you had to take. My grandma was a nurse. My mom was a nurse. My aunts were all nurses. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
That would be a terrible career choice for you.
So I'll be a nurse, and definitely quit that before I even started. Decided to go to business, and at Bethel you have to choose a minor or two concentrations. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it was during that season where I was like, okay, you have to pick something that I was interning at a church there. And I very, very clearly, sophomore year, and I can picture it in my head, sitting on the floor with these high school girls, and I felt God say, I want you to do this. And that was when I feel like the Lord really called me into ministry full time. And I, at that point, then took a youth ministry minor, which, business and youth ministry very well complement each other. No, I don't know. But it worked, and I loved it. And that's really kind of where my heart went after that. And so from there on, started and did a graduate certificate at Moody Bible Institute. Finished halfway, got a graduate certificate, and then we got married, and I was like, I'm never going to school again until I did. And then just finished 2 masters, actually, Masters of Christian Leadership and Biblical Counseling just within the last year from Calvary Chapel University.
So when we got married in 2008, you obviously stepped away from your job, youth ministry, doing that, and I took a job as a youth pastor in Kansas, and that literally all at the same time. So that was kind of your last moment of literally getting a paycheck from a church. But over the next, I guess, what was that, 17 years it's been, there was still ministry. What did that look like for people that are like, I know we had 4 kids, but you're still super involved in different ways? Yeah.
Ministry definitely in the sense of like, I'm not employed by a church anymore, but my mindset was always ministry. I did 31 for 12 plus years, which is like direct sales and
multi-level marketing.
Yeah. And that was kind of something I fell into. It was the Lord, honestly, because my heart had always been to be home with our kids. And so as soon as we started having kids, which was, we had 2 of them in Kansas and 2 of them in California, I wanted to be home and I wanted to raise our kids. The thought of like sending them off was like, I didn't want to do that. And so, so I did 31, which was a blessing because it allowed me to be home. It's very hard, very, very hard when you have 4 kids under the age of 6, trying to work full time from home. But we did it because we had to, and it was a blessing because God was very good to us in that season. And then from there, I also, when we were in California, just this whole idea of like intentional parenting is always laid heavy on my heart, and just what that looks like, being very purposeful in the way that you raise your kids. And again, that was also a ministry mindset of like, I'm not just a mom who's like doing the mom things. I'm making disciples of these kids who God has gifted us and put under our authority and our leadership. And so God called me and told me to start this ministry at our old church. And so that was called AIM. It's called Authentic and Intentional Motherhood. And again, it was all the Lord because I just said yes, but he grew it, and it became really just a beautiful thing where when we left, there was a good sized group of women that were meeting every week and just really pouring into what does it look like to be a woman who's following hard after Jesus, but also very purposefully and intentionally raising their kids to know and love Jesus too. And so I did that for 7 years back in California. And now here I'm in a season of asking, what does that look like for me? God told me to wait for a while before I kind of jump in and start just really doing what he is called, or what the role that he has for me here. Right now, it really has been allowing my kids and our family to get settled and adjusted. And it's been a good season, hard season, but God has definitely been there in the midst of that and just really given me many opportunities, just even in the home, to create a place of rest, to create a place of stability for the kids as they're going through this massive life change. So.
Yeah. So I've been, in the time that we've been married, I was a youth pastor for a while. I was actually a teaching pastor for a little while. And then over the past decade, I was sort of the guy that, I was sort of like I was sort of like the pinch hitter that would like come in and preach like, once every 4 or 5 weeks, but not consistently. Now that it is more consistent, and you're having to sit there and listen to me tell stories about you over and over, how is that landing for you? How do you feel when I get up and start telling a story about you or our family? What's going through your head? Because yesterday was a lot about you.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't mind. It doesn't ever bother me or anything. I think it's fun because, the things that you share on stage are 30 to 40 minutes of a story or our lives or whatever. And I get emotional, but like, I know the rest of it, I know the
parts that are true too, that I didn't make up.
I know the behind the scenes stuff. I know the parts of it that not everybody gets to hear. Jeez Louise, why am I crying?
I don't know. Can I just say, like, right now, this isn't a big deal. This, just for those, this always happens when we like go to dinner and we'll be sitting at a restaurant just having a conversation and she'll get emotional, and inevitably the server will walk up and look at me like I've just like dumped her or said something horrible and made her cry, and I'm like, no, she's just, we're fine.
It's good. I promise. Yeah. Just emotional human being. Pete loves emotions. So, but yeah, no, I don't mind it, honestly, because the truth is, like, I know, like when you share stuff about our journey here, or the little bit that everybody knows about it, the process and the transition and the things that God did in our lives and our family, on the countless walks that we took, on the countless conversations we've had, the things that we've wrestled with the Lord with through the whole transition and process. It's all there's like 5% that everybody gets to hear, and I know the other 95% that that we walk through and that we got to navigate with the Lord through that process. And I don't know, it's like I have a little inside scoop to I don't know, the way that God led us through that. And like I know, the things that you talked about yesterday, like, yeah, there's this much that everybody gets to hear, but there's so much more beneath it that is the why behind the things that you hear on stage. And I think it's a privilege to know that stuff, and an honor to kind of know those things.
It's been a little bit of for me personally too, just, it's been a growing thing for me with you and I, because I like, it's a weird thing. Sometimes just other people, like, I'm not like a super like externally emotional person, but I am a very transparent person. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have always a filter, like those of you that listen to the podcast.
This is true.
And it's not like the filter is just like I'm just saying horrible things, but like it's true. I'll just say it. Mm-hmm. And even tying into what I talked about yesterday, I think what's been a big growing thing for me as a person has been the mixture, these two things combined. I don't have a filter always. I'm very open and transparent, and I'm also naturally a pessimist. So what ends up, those two things come together with me verbalizing oftentimes negativity, because I'll say what's on my mind, and as a cynic or a pessimist, what's on my mind is, well, that's dumb, I don't like that, that's broken, we should fix that. And so I think like the part of me that I've been trying to grow in is I'm always going to be a person that says what's on my mind, whatever, but what is on my mind, and trying to be more positive so it's not negativity. And if there is negativity, maybe I can control that or not have to verbalize it. You have like any challenges in marriage, you have borne the brunt of that, especially early on. Who was I talking to? I was talking to one of my friends from when we were back in Illinois for Thanksgiving. I think it was Matt, and explaining just like that the Spader family, you're a Spader, don't do sarcasm. It's just not in your world. When I am at your parents' house, like I gotta turn sarcasm off. But even early on in our marriage, like cynicism, pessimism, negativity, sarcasm, they're not how you're wired. And I'm way too much that, especially when I was younger. I guess talk maybe like, I don't know if there's a really specific question here, but your own journey as a very positive person, like I talked about on stage yesterday, not thinking negative things, marrying this guy who is just mopey and complaining all the time. I don't know if I've ever asked you this. We've talked about the idea, but what was it like marrying me and going on that journey of me trying to get better at that?
I mean, first of all, I feel like you spoke too negatively about yourself.
Oh, there you go. Go figure.
But yeah, I was like, even listening yesterday, I was like, you're not that bad. You're making yourself out to be like.
I think I've gotten better.
You have gotten better.
You probably remember last month more than 17 years ago.
Right. Yeah, you definitely have gotten better. I think like, I even thinking about this topic, like my mom has always been somebody who is just like every situation there's a positive. Every time, every conflict, every issue, there's always something that she pulls out that's positive. So that's always been the ear or the voice in my ear that, has for 44 years now has kind of directed my thoughts, if you will, as a child, even as an adult now. When I talk to my mom frequently, like it's always, well, you think about this and you just got to grit your teeth and do it, and you can do hard things, and God is going to grow you through this. And so it's always been the voice in my ear. But I think like even in choosing joy and choosing to be positive, like there on average we make like 35,000 choices a day, right? Like that's, ish, something like that. That seems like insane, which if you consider you're sleeping for like 8 hours of those, that's a lot of choices an hour. And so like, I remember very clearly God gave me a very specific word on this because I was struggling with something specifically, and I was like, Lord, I'm just having a hard time with this. And he's like, though, whatever that is, like 3,000 choices an hour, something along those lines. Like, and every single time that we have a choice to make, we can go this way or we can go that way. And we can say, there's a verse in Ephesians that talks about, don't get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be controlled by the Spirit. And in that have millisecond of a second or whatever it is, we have an opportunity to let the Spirit control our thought or let our flesh control our thought. And as I make those choices throughout the day, as I'm interacting with the kids, as we're interacting in our home, as we're interacting with people, as we're living life, as we're choosing what to think about and what to focus on, like those choices are coming like this frequently, and we have an opportunity, a choice to make, like you talked about yesterday, like in your message, like we have a choice to make in that moment. Do I let the Spirit control me or do I let my flesh control me? And I think what has, and actually even with that stat, 40% of those choices that we make are from habits that we have formed, right, are developed over time. And as those things become habits, they just start to happen more naturally, right? So as you're growing up, if you're with the environment that I grew up in, it was a positive environment. Like my parents spoke positivity. They spoke God's word over me. They spoke, encouragement over our family. My mom has always been my biggest cheerleader. And so over time, those things, that frame of mind, those abilities to choose in those milliseconds has become a habit, right? And so now here I am, mid-40s, and those things are habits now. So when there's something negative that's presented itself and I have that choice to make, it's just by habit that my brain goes to Scripture to say, well, what does God say? Who is his character? How is this true? Is this a fact or fiction? Is this a feeling? Or is this something I need to go, whatever that is, I need to process that through the lens of Scripture, through the lens of letting the Spirit control me. And so, as we interact as a married couple, like, I think that those habits that have been formed at a very young age that have grown with me throughout the years have influenced the way that I process and the way that I view life, but the way that I view you, the way that I view any like negativity or hard things. You get this from me, like I'll say, well, we can do it, but God is this, or but this or this, and so it does come from a choice, yes, but it also comes from years of forming those habits and choosing to let the Spirit control me, not let the flesh control me. And those are things that I want our home to be encompassing in. I want our kids to grow up knowing and feeling and understanding. And because our minds are do not let the world conform you, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds. So what we let settle in our mind will dictate how we act and what we say and what we think and feel and all that. So
when I was So for those that weren't there yesterday or didn't listen to it, you made a comment to it. The thing that, if there was like not the main point, but an underlying theme was, I think you and I maybe talked about this before, maybe we disagreed on it or whatever, but the concept of joy, and I this is what my brain does, I think sometimes in a positive way. My criticalness will actually deconstruct things, take them apart and get them to their base level. Then I can then be like, okay, so what's true here? And sometimes as Christians, we say things, we have like mantras or axioms or, well, this is true and this is true. We haven't really thought about them. And when it comes to joy, sometimes as Christians, I've been in cultures or wrestled with like people talking as if joy was like a thing that you have or that like God just gives you. And I don't think that's true. I don't think God gives you joy. And here's what I mean by that. Joy is a fruit, right? What God does, according to Psalm 1, is tell you to be planted by streams of water by meditating on his word day and night, and it will bear fruit in season. Joy is the overflow. Joy is an emotion that comes from something good. What God does is his Spirit leads you into good things and to think about good things and to live a certain way where joy comes. So he does give joy, but he doesn't just like, now sometimes he might, but more often than not, he doesn't just magically pop joy inside of you. He leads you, like if you're struggling or you're in depression, he leads you to make different choices or to think about different things or to surround yourself differently, to change what you're planted in and what you're, like you said, the habits and the decisions that you make. So for you to grow up in a home where that was the world that they created through choice, joy is often the overflow of it. And so I have learned that a lack of joy in my life, or vice versa, or connected, the presence of like depression or sadness is often something I can sort of unpack and look at the trail, and I'm usually going to find decisions or choices or influences that I chose that have led me to this moment. And so just the idea of like the fact that I can choose and think differently and change what I focus on can bring about different results in how I feel was sort of, we were going yesterday. And for you, I think there is a difference though. And I didn't want to say there was no, I had a few people come up to me afterwards and ask me about it. And there is a natural difference though in the way that our brains work. And that's not bad. Like it is, I would say it's easier for you to see, I don't know, like talk about like, you know, I did the whole picture thing. Like you, I have felt that about you. You don't naturally tend to see the problems. Like,
Sometimes
do you think,
maybe to a fault. I don't know.
and I guess it's like, would you say like, I would say it's just your upbringing. Like, I don't know that your sisters are 100% that way. Like, is it safe to say there might be just parts of our DNA that were just a little more bent in that direction?
I mean, yeah, I do think so, but I also think that anybody can get there.
Yeah, I wasn't saying you can't. I'm saying like,
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know how that works DNA wise and all the, you know, science stuff that feed into
that you were going to study in college.
That I was going to study. Isn't that paleontology? Isn't that dinosaurs? But yeah, I don't know. I think like I don't know. Say that again. I lost my train of thought with the dinosaurs.
I'm not trying to undermine everything I preached yesterday, but I do think some people, let me create an analogy that's, hopefully it's not a harsh analogy. Like we're talking about something mentally, talking about something physically. There are people who genetically have to work a lot less to stay a certain way or whatever. There are people who genetically are more naturally able to play basketball, and other people have to work a little bit harder. Everyone can play basketball. Right. Everyone can be in shape if they want to, whatever shape you're looking for physically. But there are genetic dispositions that lead some physically to certain things. And I wonder if maybe in the same vein, I do feel like you are naturally a more optimistic human being. And sometimes, you know, you've mentioned it, there are sometimes negative parts to that, which is like sometimes it's important to see cracks in a foundation to be like, hey, I don't know, fix that, and not just ignore it or pretend everything's fine. So it cuts both ways. But my guess what I was getting at was like, is it safe to say that you do naturally feel more like a person, or you're more wired that way?
Yeah. I mean, probably. I guess I would think that that's probably true. You know, I guess I just go back to the things that bring that in me, you know, and it goes back to the choices and the things that I choose to root myself in, the things that I choose to plant myself in, and that just feeds it and helps it grow. Like being in God's word is like number one for me. Like that's a non-negotiable. And so when I'm faced with moments that are hard, or I have that choice to make in that second where I say, do I think this or do I think this, spirit or flesh? Like God's word is the thing that keeps me grounded and planted in that. And, you know, so, but yeah, I do think that there is definitely probably something in me physically wired that's different than you that,
yeah, and that's okay.
that is bent towards that.
Yeah. I find that a lot of the healthy marriages that I've interacted with are well balanced in that.
Right.
You know, you can be, you know, it's a buzzword today, toxic, whatever. You can be toxically pessimistic and just ruin every relationship and everything in your life. But you can also be toxically optimistic and be so naive or blind to problems that nothing gets fixed. There's a middle ground.
Yeah.
Let's do this. I think one thing I wanted to do just for a few minutes, we always assume the listener of this podcast has heard the message, because this is the whole point of In the Woods, is going a little bit deeper into what we talked about on Sunday usually. So yesterday, though, just in case you didn't hear it, I told a story just about your journey of acceptance. Is the wrong word, because it was much more than just acceptance. It was your journey of embracing God's call to Battle Creek. And I told a story about you coming to me one day and telling me that God told you it would just be a different kind of beautiful. And I wonder, you started this podcast with, you get to hear 5% when Pete tells a story. Maybe kind of fill in the rest of the gaps of that story for people.
Yeah. So my personal process, I remember on our anniversary, September 20th, and we went out to dinner to Cheesecake Factory in San Diego. And that was like right at the very beginning of the process of us saying,
I hadn't even told our lead pastor I was leaving yet.
That was like us.
Hadn't looked
like,
for any jobs.
Oh my goodness, are we going to actually do this? Like Pete had felt very clearly that the Lord had called him to lead. And I was like, wait, what?
Did you just refer to me in the third person?
What?
You just said Pete had I'm sitting right in front of you.
Oh, you had. I'm speaking to the masses here. Okay. You had felt very clearly that God had said we're gonna leave, and I remember clearly in that moment I was like, okay, well, if God's gonna call you, He's got to call me, because. And I'm gonna ask Him. I'm gonna pursue Him, and I'm gonna trust that He will. But I know that it might look differently than, you know, your top of the mountain experience that you had in August. And so from that moment on, I was kind of like, I pressed in hard. And the thing I look back on in that season was God was just so kind to me. Gonna get emotional, but just so kind to me in those moments, because I didn't want to leave. I had a lot of good things there. We had a lot of good things there. Our family was very established and settled. We'd finally gotten to a place in ministry and family and home and house and schools and church and all the things that was just growing and going. It was going really well. And so I knew that if God was going to uproot that, He had to make it clear to me. This time last Christmas, I was reading through Luke, and I very clearly felt God tell me through Mary, you know, the angel came and told her that she was going to have this baby. And I said, okay, Lord, you gave her, in order for her to do this ridiculously hard thing, you gave her clarity and you gave her confidence. And so those are the two things that I'm going to pray through this season, because if we're going to leave everything that I love, I got to know that it's you, because if I know that it's you, I can do it. But if I have any confusion, if I have any questions, when it gets hard, and I know it will, I'm going to question, was this really you, God? And so I told the Lord, I was like, you got to give me clarity in terms of how this is going to look, and you got to give me confidence that it's you. And God, in his sweet kindness, was so good to me during that season, because it wasn't just like a lightning bolt moment, like I'm calling you to do this and leave California and go here. But it was a process that took maybe 2 to 3 months of me worrying about something and thinking about something, or scared about something, or whatever it was that was on my mind as we were walking through this season. And literally, guys, I have so many entries in my journal of like, I would have this worry the day, and then the next morning God would speak so clearly to it, so clearly. And it was just time and time and time and time and time again. And I just like, that was just God being so kind to me, because he knew it was such a big thing that I was so scared of. And he knew that there was a million fears and a million worries that I had to walk through in that process for myself, for our kids. And he would just meet me in them every morning. And it was just like very gentle and very kind. But that moment that you talked about and shared, that was one of many. And I would go on every Friday morning. I'd take the dog for a walk, and we had this path with a little big dog park and a park around us. And I would walk the path with Cooper, and I would pray, and I would just take that like 45 minutes and just like lean in and let the Lord speak to me. And there was just that one day that I was on that walk, and God was like, it was like so pretty. It was so pretty. I wasn't even by the ocean or anything, but it was just beautiful. The sun was shining through the trees, and I was like, it was like 70 degrees out, and I was just like fully embracing everything that I loved in that moment, and that I knew I was going to miss: our neighborhood, the house that we lived in, the friends that we had there. And I was just feeling sad, and I was like, Lord, it's really great here. And God just really clearly said, he just whispered in my ear, he said, Julie, it's going to be good. It's just going to look differently. The beauty is just going to look differently. And I clung to that in that moment because in my head, Michigan, Midwest, like I literally said, I'm okay never seeing snowfall. I'll watch it on my TV and then go outside and swim. But so in my head, the Midwest was like, bleh. Cloudy and gray, and that is the reality of it, what it is. But there is a different kind of beauty here that's in, like you talked about, the leaves, and the snow, and that's just like this little bit of it. That's the physical side of it, and the beauty. Honestly, one of the biggest things that I was looking forward to, the beauty that I had not known in that season of life, was watching you lead. And get emotional again, guys. But when somebody would ask me what I was most excited about, the beauty that I was most excited about seeing was seeing you come into a role that I knew God had called you to, and that I knew you could do, but I'd watch you fight for so many years. Or just not believe in yourself that you could do it. And that door was finally opened. And that's what one of the many beautiful things that I'm getting to watch unfold. I believe that God has beauty for our kids. I believe that God has beauty for the church, for the people here, for the relationships that we're gaining and going to have in the future. I believe God has beauty in our marriage, in our family, in our home, in our neighborhood, for the people here, for the ministry that is going to come in the many years. And yeah, like there's truthfully, like, I love San Diego. It will always hold a very sweet, special spot in my heart, in the life that we had there. But I truthfully would rather be no one else. And you said it too. And I think that's the heartbeat of why we came here, because like when you obey God and he calls you to something, it's going to be good. And good doesn't always necessarily mean like physical good. That's a part of it. But like the good that God is going to, the beauty that God's going to grow in us, in the church, in the ministry, in all the places, is going to be so worth it. And some of those things we may not even see this side of heaven, some of those things we may not understand until we get to the other side. And the Lord and Jesus says, hey, do you see what your obedience caused? Do you see what that yes meant for that person and that person and that person? And that's worth it. That's worth it. And that's what I want our kids to know, is that a yes to the Lord is always worth it, and will always be good. Hard sometimes, but good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't even know where to take it after that one.
Yeah, sorry, I'm crying again.
I appreciate it. So we, I don't know, I'm glad to be able to get you on here and let people hear from you. It's a weird thing because when I wasn't a lead pastor, I felt like we were very much, San Diego was very much a journey for both of us together at the same time. Like planning a church with 6 people, here it's more like, oh, Pete's the lead pastor. Oh, who's his wife? Oh, and it's a different dynamic, but it's important to me that people get a chance to know who you are, and it's not a different dynamic in my head. I just realize it is to the way that people perceive things. Mm-hmm. So, I've wouldn't be here doing this without you. So I wouldn't want to do this without you. I don't know I probably wouldn't leave my house without you. So that's we had some friends over on Saturday night for just the Christmas, some fun, and we were playing one of those crazy games that you like to play, and someone goes, what did they say? Someone said, oh, this is the moment where you see the difference between Pete and Julie, that we're doing this game. And I was like, no, the fact that you guys at our house is the difference. The fact that we're at a Christmas party is the difference between Julie. I just can be very much a homebody and to myself. But there's so many ways that we're different that the differences are good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm grateful for God bringing you into my life. So.
Yeah. And one more thing I'll just say too is this season, it's been a weird season for me because I have always been so involved in all the ways. And so it's kind of this weird waiting season right now. But God has been very clear to me. He told me to quit my job back in August. And it was from Exodus 17 where he was where Moses was holding his hands up, and Aaron and Hur came around and held his arms up so he would win the war and against the Amalekites. And there's a little phrase in there that says they found him a place to sit so he could rest, so he wouldn't get tired. And so back in July when we first got here, I was kind of clinging to that and saying, I'm going to keep working, I'm going to keep doing this. And God was like, no, I want you to find a place for him to sit and for your kids to sit. And so that's been kind of where I'm sitting for now. So I hopefully, Lord willing, will get to be more involved as things go.
Oh, yeah.
In this season, it's just my role here is making our home a place to rest and a place to sit and getting our family settled and so that you can come and get on stage and that our kids can go and do what God's called them to do. And so.
It's a season.
It's a season. Yeah.
Just a transition season. So you'll be probably look back on this podcast a couple of years from now and be a completely different season, way more involvement and stuff. So, cool. Well, thanks for, I was going to say taking time out of your day. You're planning our staff Christmas party, which is tomorrow night. And our staff don't know what's going to hit them. Sarah is sitting back there being like, please, no. Oh, it's going to be fun. You bring the fun. So, it's going to be good. And then, so this week we are continuing our series. I'm actually looking at the song Hark the Herald Angels Sing this weekend, taking it in a direction you probably won't expect. Pastor Ken's doing that at Marshall. And, of course, then we're almost to Christmas. So at Christmas Eve, we're going to announce how much you guys raised, as well as share some of the stories. So this week, our team is getting together, going through all the nominations. Our hope is checks are getting mailed out probably Monday of next week. And And we're just excited to see what God's going to do. So thank you, everyone who participated. And we are filming this on Monday, the day after. I think today's the 8th of December. So depending on when you're watching or listening, you can still give. We're going to keep the Christmas offering open, probably at least till Christmas Eve. So it's not too late. We still have plenty of places and different people who are wanting to bless. So you don't have to stop. Love to have you continue with that. So you're going to see what God's going to do. It's going to be great. And then, head into the new year and see what God's going to do. So, Julie, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Sarah, as always, thanks for standing behind the camera, making things happen, or in front of the camera, wherever you're at. But we'll see you guys next week on In the Woods podcast. We'll be back with Ken next week, so it's going to be good. See you then. Thanks, guys.